Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy, do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
No, I'm not Peyton Ansley John Milton. I am the agent authorized to represent Peyton Ansley John Milton as written in all capital letters.
Thank you. And as to Mr. Milton, is there a competency concern, or is this
I am not represented by anybody besides myself. In my sovereign capacity, appreciate you.
Thank you, Your Honor. I did have an opportunity to speak to him. I read him the reports.
Who is him?
Don't interrupt. I'm letting
I read him.
You just sit quietly.
Thank you.
I read him the report so that he will understand the charges against him. He didn't wish to hear anything more about his rights, and he does not wish to be represented.
All right. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict. Turn the music down just a tiny bit as we wait to go back to court, which is happening here shortly. Let me just tell you this. Let me tell you this. So I saw this question in chat. I thought I'd answer it. Yes, the town of Kinston, North Carolina, broke a Guinness World Record on Saturday, May 3rd, 2025, for the most barbecue sandwiches sold in 8 hours. The Barbecue Fest on the News sold 4,775 pulled pork sandwiches, surpassing the previous record of 2,500. The event was supported by NC Pork Council and Smithfield Foods, hog farming, with proceeds benefiting local Eastern North Carolina charities. Yes, in fact, they would have sold 4,777, but I was not able to participate. We were on the side of the road fixing a flat tire and did not make it back in time. Missed the whole thing. So my one claim to fame that I could have had about, having a world record, thanks to my efforts, gone, just completely out the window. So there you have it. That's how life goes sometimes. So, all right, we're going to be jumping back to court here in just a moment. I want to say Mary Tedeschi sent 5 gifted memberships. Thank you very much. Thank you. How long was that intro? It's a long one. That's from Tumwater, Washington. So Thurston County. A great one. One of the great trials we watched up there. All right. Possibility says I'm actually on time today. That is wonderful. I am-ish. I was a tiny bit late. I said I'd be there early, but so I guess I'm not technically. But we're here now. At day 9, where would you have been on a verdict so far? I will say this. They have not done much to convince me of Karen's intent to do anything. So the murder charge, there's nothing. They haven't met the elements, so that would definitely be a not guilty. They've proven no intent, like pre an idea that something happened. I don't know. I don't think it's there. Just found a bug bite on the back of my head. Now it itches really bad. Let's see. The record will forever have an asterisk because RA couldn't get there. If only. If they beat it by 1 next year, it would have been like, had I been there, the record would still stand. Could the defense ask for another judge? No. The mistrial wasn't because of trial number 1. Or wasn't because of Judge Beverly's behavior on trial number 1. There was no finding of bias that would have required the mistrial. Had that been the reason for the mistrial, you would have a new judge. But it's not a rule that the judge can't know any of the other players, can't know the counsel, can't know defense, can't know defendant. The rule is, can the judge be impartial? And the person who gets to decide if they're able to be impartial is the judge. So typically, if there is a known association, it's generally it's made known to both sides, and there's an opportunity to object. I don't believe they pursued that if there was. So, you read that the judge defended Chris Albert in a prior vehicular homicide case. Is that a bias? It's a small town. Yeah, I don't know. I know there is a prior case. I don't know the details of that, of who was involved or what the charge was. But yeah, there's some history there, unfortunately. If you're putting chats up, we can't see them, says Angelique. Thank you for the reminder. And also, quick reminder, Woody was first in chat this afternoon. Congratulations, Woody. We're going to send it to you to internet ownership. You've done this before, so we feel the internet is safe in your hands. Is there a lesser charge of involuntary manslaughter on the jury instructions? I think it's just those three that go back to the jury. I don't think they have any lessers. Oatmeal says, I think we will hit 100 sighs this afternoon. Well, I have to admit, most of the additions today were from sirens. More sirens than sighs today, but only because the judge was leaning back away from the microphone. There was one that was caught just off camera where her shoulders go. Like it was so obvious. Size matter. It's size matter. You have to drop the second S, otherwise it gets confusing. Yeah. Anyway, on that note, I did get a shirt from the barbecue fest on the Noose. The Noose being the Noose River. How do you spell that? Neuse, I think it is. Noose River. Not like noose, but it's a great shirt. I might wear it one day. I almost fell out of my chair when AJ asked for a sidebar, and she said, nope.
Court is back in session. You may be seated.
There we go again. Part 2. Defense asks for a sidebar. And she says, she sighs, and she says, okay, so we're going to count that sigh. That takes us to 97. Looking around, Miss, is it McLaughlin? Katie McLaughlin? She's done now, right? I do wonder if the sister who, it was just revealed last week that she transcribed the timeline. I wonder if she's going to be called at all. That'll be interesting. Can we call it a sidebar at this point? They are doing sidebar, yes, and you're correct. Mr. Jackson asked for it. Probably talking about what happened right before we went to break. Objection, putting something on the record. Amber Michelle, member for 13 months, says, it's really been like 2 years. Scott, you're awesome. Thanks for providing this community. Amber, thank you. It would not be the same without you here. Appreciate you being a part of it. And yeah, the 13 months is not reflective of the entire time you've been with us. Who are the ladies to either side of John's mom? Family. That's all I know, family. A lot of ladies there today. Only Paul showing up for the men. If it's another mistrial, can they try again? Yes, they can keep trying on mistrials. Unless it's well, there are some scenarios where they can't, I guess. If I remember this correctly, a mistrial typically means starting over. But if the state does something wrong and it's egregious and there's a mistrial, I think they can. If it's just if the jury just comes back hung, they can go again for sure. It would be exhausting. Yes. Where am I? I'm down here in the corner. Virginia, what are you talking about? I'm hiding. If Karen Ray didn't say I hit him, she probably wouldn't be here on trial. That is a key piece of evidence. It's probably the primary evidence we've heard from the prosecution thus far. I'm blended in with the court. I'm just hiding down here. I can't spell intentional. Judge C saying anything the Commonwealth does as a reason for error. She's Team Commonwealth in my opinion. Cecilio. Two things can be true. She hit him and the dog attacked him outside. This is also, I'm not saying I know that the dog attacked him, but those definitely both could be true. We're going to get a lot of testimony about the injuries on his arm and about whether or not they could be from a dog. And also whether or not they could be from a car.
Send you back to the jury room. We'll see you in 10 minutes.
All rise, please. Jurors, close your notebooks. Follow me.
Judge is mad. Judge is mad. Sorry to waste your time, jury. Sorry to waste your time like this. None of us wanted your time to be wasted like this. 10 minutes. Jury's out. Does that mean we get to... Does it mean we get to hear everything? You could hear in her tone that she's frustrated with that. I'm hoping the camera pans down. This all happens in open court, but I'm not seeing it. Yeah, this is a bad start to the day. Part 2. Checking the Twitterverse to see if, let's see. I'm just noticing that somebody mentioned that Katie, who just testified, wore the exact same outfit, minus the necklace. It was a different necklace. White shirt, same white, little turtleneck type, fake turtleneck with black jacket. This time she testified as the last time. Only the necklace changed. That's funny. The tweet was basically, has she been home? Has she been home since her last testimony? You catch details like that. Maybe that's her court outfit. All right. Exact same demeanor as well. I find her credible. JVA, she was very consistent. That helps. She was a little more frustrated this time. Not that she was flustered, but just like, seriously, I've talked about this over and over and over. You know. I've told you, you know. Selena says, I think she was a great witness as well. She was too busy chatting with the Commonwealth to go home to change, says Double Agent. Tom Taz, this is terrible. When this is a hung jury again, I think it will be. Do you think the Commonwealth will try again? Don't say that. Don't say that. I think we'll reach a conclusion on this one. I think these people in this town are tired of this trial. Oh, good. Lindsay, the hearing today was closed. Is there another one that's closed tomorrow? We're trying to bring you the Top Mark Media, the Koberger stuff, but they keep sealing the hearings. After the judge said he's going to have everything open, these ones are sealed. So, no media, no public. I'm just going to rewatch Ryan Nagel's first and second testimony until it's all over, says Pantufle. Over. You mean the feds? My sister's a PETA? She can be. Yeah, that was some good stuff. I liked Ryan. I liked his testimony. Okay. I was going to say, I knew today's was closed. I didn't know that we're going to do one tomorrow and close it. Why are they keeping this sidebar quiet? I wish I could answer that for you, Angela. I think it's going to be a battle of the experts. I thought the phone guy was good for the Commonwealth. Virginia, I think he did a better job this time than last, and it was good for the Commonwealth. I think ARCA is the defense's ace in the hole. If they can come in and with the same sort of clarity that we saw for like the first 3/4 of the testimony of Mr. Ian Whiffen, the phone guy from Commonwealth, with that same sort of clarity and followability, spell out using physics what is possible and what isn't possible from the accident, I think we'll have a not guilty. Nothing like it. Happy Cinco de Mayo to you as well. Can't they request another judge solely based on her bias? They have to file a motion, and what happens is I believe if you allege that we saw that with Judge Glanville in the Young Thug trial, where they alleged that he was biased and filed a motion to remove the judge, and then that is heard by a separate impartial judge, and they haven't done that to my knowledge in this case. Hope ARCA will bring video demonstratives. Chris McCann, today is my 24th wedding anniversary. Congratulations on 24 wonderful years of marriage. That's awesome. Let's see. There seems to be a light bit of staining on the ceiling for sure. And some spider webs here and there. It is an old building. Ellie says, when you say a good witness for who? I would say a good witness for believability. Obviously, all these witnesses that are being called right now are in the state's case in chief. So most of what they testify to you would presume would be helpful to the state's case. I don't think all of it has been. But I think a good witness is one that is believable by the jury. Pantufle says, I'm still keeping an open mind about Koberger. That's Brian Koberger up in Idaho. But the more that's unsealed, the worse it looks. They are pursuing the death penalty in that one. It's going to be a very interesting case later this summer. Today is the rare Taco Monday because it's Cinco de Mayo, followed by Taco Tuesday. Anything on Twitter about the break? Nothing. I just saw that tweet about Katie. There's a lot on Twitter. Oh my goodness.
Right, so we're bringing the jurors over. I'll see counsel at sidebar.
Jury's coming back. Sidebar recommences. This may be the third stage of the sidebar. What do you guys think of the testimony with that Katie gave, that there were 4 I hit hims to a police officer? At least one of them was a direct response to clarification question from the police officer. And then nothing happened. Like she got sort of Baker acted, involuntarily committed, but no arrests. They just let her go. I hope Dr. Wolf brings the cannon. Yeah, we'll have to do another a little field trip that day. Let us fire the cannon. I have fired a cannon a couple times here in North Carolina, which I really enjoy doing. But the cannon I was firing was a candy cannon. It's imagine like a 8-inch diameter pipe welded to a plate on the bottom. So it's just a short, about a foot long or a foot and a half long pipe with a little hole for a fuse. So you put some dynamite fuse through that little hole, sprinkle some candy in there, or sprinkle some gunpowder around the bottom, just, a cap full or so, and push a styrofoam plug in, and then you dump in as much candy as you can, and then you light the fuse, and it goes boom, and it launches it and shoots it. I think it's legal. But we fired that off a couple times. It just rains candy down. It's a lot of fun. I think I have a video somewhere of it too. Judy, yes, 4,775 barbecue sandwiches in 8-hour period. That is over the previous record of 2,500. May the record stand for many years. It's like a t-shirt cannon, only this one uses gunpowder and dynamite fuse. A t-shirt cannon usually uses air, which is much safer because, to be truthful, I had no idea how much gunpowder to use, and so it's just you just pour some gunpowder in, just literally, and then you ignite it. Cleo, thank you very much. Popping in to say hi. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Cleo, you too. Congratulations on 2 months. New color courthouse. Who's next on the stand? I think they're going to call the next witness right now. We'll find out if it's Paul or someone else.
Court is back in session. You may be seated.
I apologize for that, folks. Nobody likes wasting your time. Your witness, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Commonwealth calls Paul Gallagher.
Thank you. So follow me, please.
Paul Gallagher is up first.
I do. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
There was a big sigh there.
Oh.
Looks
All
familiar.
right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, sir. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, my name is Paul Gallagher.
For the court reporter, would you mind spelling your last name?
Gallagher.
Mr. Gallagher, do you presently work?
As a police officer, I'm retired.
When did you retire?
August 31st, 2024.
When you retired, what department were you working for?
Canton Police Department.
How many years had you worked for the Canton Police Department upon your retirement?
I was credited with 32 years, 8 months of service.
Did you have a particular rank when you retired?
Yes, I was a lieutenant.
I want to go back to the beginning of your law enforcement career and share your background with the jury. When did you begin your career in law enforcement?
I became a permanent intermittent police officer in Canton in 1992. What a permanent intermittent police officer is, it's basically a part-time police officer. You're required to attend a 16-week part-time academy. Your duties include regular patrol duties that a regular police officer would do, but you're only utilized during special events, short staffing, and you're allowed to work paid traffic details.
Did that status change at some point?
It did in 1994.
1994, were you a patrolman?
Yes, and that required me to attend a full-time 18-week police academy.
In addition to the police academy, did you continue your training over the years?
Yes, I did.
Can you share with the jury some of the training that you would attend over the years?
Oh, sure. So I did constitutional law. I did interview and interrogation, terrorism, international terrorism, domestic domestic violence, buccal swabbing, and DEA basic narcotics course. And last duties were I did background checks, so I attended background training, and I did internal affairs.
Before I talk a little bit more about your experience over the years and your progress through the Canton Police Department, I'd like you to share with us generally and briefly the structure of the Canton Police Department. The Canton Police Department, how big is it? How many officers are typically employed by Canton at the same time?
We would like to have 45, but unfortunately we're short-staffed at this time.
At the Canton Police Department, is there different ranks?
There is.
And what are they?
They are patrol, sergeant, detective sergeant, lieutenant, deputy chief, and chief.
Given the size of Canton, is it a small department or a typically large department for that size?
I would say it's a medium-sized department.
Is Canton, do you receive traffic from other areas nearby?
We do.
Is Boston part of the crossroad through Canton at times?
It is. Route 138 runs from Boston, and it goes all the way down to the South Shore through Brockton, Taunton, etc.
Other cities or towns nearby that bring traffic through Canton as far as law enforcement is concerned?
They do, and other states. 95 runs through Canton as well and brings up traffic from Rhode Island.
For a relatively small town, is Canton a busy police department given all the crossroads and intersections?
It can be very busy at times.
You mentioned in Canton that there are different ranks. You started as a patrol officer.
Yes.
Did that change at some point?
It did.
When?
July of 2001, I became a detective.
Did you have any particular or special training to become a detective?
I started attending how to dust for fingerprints. My focus was narcotics. I had several narcotics classes.
Did you engage in those type of investigations on behalf of Canton?
I did.
Did you work with other agencies?
I did. In 2005, I started working with the Drug Enforcement Administration. In 2006, I was assigned as a task force officer for the DEA, initially out of Worcester Tactical Diversion Squad, which their mission goal was to eradicate OxyContin and oxycodone distribution at that time. It was during our oxycodone phase. In 2008, I was moved to Boston Division, and there we focused on all narcotics, not just oxycodone, heroin, cocaine, etc.
How many years did you spend as a detective before you received your next promotion?
Approximately 15 years.
What happened next in your career as far as progress?
I took the sergeant's exam, and I became a sergeant.
In order to become a sergeant, do you have to pass an exam?
An exam and an assessment, yes.
Is that enough to become a sergeant, or is there another process you have to go through?
That's where they rank you after the exam and the assessment.
What year did you say you became a sergeant?
I became a sergeant in 2017.
Was that your first supervisory position?
Not actually. I also worked as an officer in charge, which you're not technically a sergeant, but when there's no sergeant to fill the shift, They'll use experienced officers to work as a sergeant, and you receive sergeant's pay.
How long did you work as a sergeant for at the Canton Police Department?
I worked as a sergeant for 1 year till 2018, and I was promoted to detective sergeant.
As a sergeant, did your duties change or expand from that of detective?
I was still assigned to the Drug Enforcement Administration at that time.
And you just shared a year later you were promoted to lieutenant. Did you have to take and pass an exam for that?
That was detective sergeant, and I did not have to pass a test for that.
Did your duties and responsibilities expand when you became lieutenant?
Yes, I was brought out of the DEA to work in Canton specifically.
Were there other lieutenants on the Canton Police Department when you worked as a lieutenant?
I became a lieutenant in 2021. At the time, there was 3 other lieutenants.
Were there any other officers above lieutenant at that point?
There was a deputy chief and a chief.
In 2022, January, were you a lieutenant?
I was.
Your duties and responsibilities, do they include actually going to scenes, or was it purely supervisory?
It was supervisory, but we were expected to respond to scenes.
What do you mean by that?
Our chief expected a supervisor on scene at all times, at all scenes.
Even if there was a ranking supervisor like a sergeant, were you still as a lieutenant expected to go to scenes?
Oh, yes.
Did you do that often?
Yes.
I want you to take us to January 29th, 2022. Were you working the overnight shift from January 28, 2022 into January 29, 2022?
I was the outgoing lieutenant. I did not work into the 29th. I was the last lieutenant to work on the 28th.
In the early morning hours, around 6 a.m., were you on shift or off shift?
I was off shift.
Were you planning on working that morning?
I was planning on working later that day, yes.
Do you remember what the weather was like that early morning?
Yes, there was a nor'easter, which was snow, wind.
Did anything interrupt your plan of working later that day?
Yes.
Tell us what happened.
Shortly after 6 a.m., I received a call from Sergeant Sean Good of the Canton Police Department.
After you received a call from Sergeant Sean Good, were you informed about a situation?
I was.
Were you told any basic details of where and what?
Yes.
Without sharing the actual conversation, where was this situation taking place?
I misunderstood the situation. I thought it was on Meadows Ave in Canton. I later found out through dispatch that it was actually Fairview Road.
When you heard that there was a situation in Canton, did you decide to change your plans about when you would come in?
Yes, I responded.
Why did you respond?
That's the expectation our chief had for us.
When you go into work, do you use a police cruiser or do you use your personal vehicle?
On this particular day, I used a personal vehicle because of the weather.
Was that different than typical?
Yes.
And why would you use a personal vehicle instead of a police cruiser?
It was larger. It was four-wheel drive. It was the only way I probably would have got there to the scene.
After you received the call about a situation, tell us what you did.
I loaded up the car with a tent, and I drove to the Canton Police Department, and I got some winter gear from the office, and I got on the radio and advised Sergeant Sean Good, who was at the scene on Fairview, that all officers were held to further notice.
What does that mean?
They weren't going to be going home at their end of the shift until they were relieved by another supervisor.
Why did you take a tent with you?
Because of the snow. The way the call was described to me was a person possibly not breathing. And if it was an unattended death, I wanted to be able to cover the person.
Why?
Respect.
That tent was a tent from your home, a personal tent?
It was. It was an 8x8 pop-up tent.
You went to the Canton Police Department first before you went to the scene?
I did.
Why did you go to the Canton Police Department first?
Tent.
I had some winter gear there, including a reflective jacket that I thought would be helpful, given it was dark out. Visibility was very bad.
When you got to the Canton Police Department, did you learn anything from any of your colleagues while at the police department?
The only one colleague at the police department at that time was Officer Kelly Dever.
After you got your gear at the Canton Police Department, did you head towards Fairview?
I did.
Other than the general description that you had heard, did you know anything about what was going on there?
Just that a gentleman was found unconscious in the snow, possibly not breathing.
You mentioned the term unintended death. What does that mean?
An unattended death is a death where someone dies alone, and you don't know the reason. It doesn't mean there's foul play. In fact, 99% of the time, it's natural causes.
Is there a process for the Canton Police Department when they learn of any death, unintended or not? Is there a process you need to follow?
Yes, there is.
And what is that process?
That's to call the Norfolk County DA's office, their CPAC unit, Crime Prevention and Control. They have jurisdictions over deaths and unattended deaths.
You mentioned a CPAC unit. What type of officers or law enforcement is the CPAC unit?
It's manned by the Massachusetts State Police.
Are you required by statute to contact CPAC or the Massachusetts State Police, even if it's an unintended death?
Yes.
Did you follow that process?
Sergeant Lank followed that process.
Is that one of the officers who worked under you?
Yes, that is correct.
Did you know if Sergeant Lank was at the scene when you were leaving Canton, or did you learn at some point when you got there whether Sergeant Lank was at Fairview?
When I got there, I saw the black Toyota Tundra, which is operated by our detectives there, and then I saw him.
When the Canton Police Department first contacted the Massachusetts State Police or the CPAC unit about the information, do you have an understanding whether or not the Massachusetts State Police were going to respond or not?
They were not responding.
So when you got to Fairview Road, were there any other law enforcement officers other than Canton police officers?
No, there was not.
When you appeared at Fairview Road or arrived, were you the superior officer on the scene?
I was the highest ranking officer.
As you're pulling up to Fairview that morning, what's the first thing you see when you get there?
As I pull up, I see the last of the fire apparatus pulling away. I get out of the vehicle. The first one I encountered was Sergeant Sean Good, who was the shift supervisor.
Did you see any other of your officers there?
I did. I saw Lieutenant Lank further down, and further down I saw two other cruisers, which ended up being Officer Mulaney and Officer Sarif.
Did any of the cruisers or vehicles have lights on?
They did.
Did you hear any sirens?
No, there wouldn't be any sirens.
Why wouldn't there be?
Sirens are used to move traffic. There was no traffic. It was a blizzard. There were no cars on the road. You might see an occasional plow.
Did you ever learn the general area where the person was found?
Yes.
At that time, did you know who the person was?
I did. I knew him by name, yes.
Did someone inform you of who the person was?
Sergeant Sean Good did, yes.
Okay. And who was the person that you learned was on the ground?
John O'Keefe.
Had you known John O'Keefe?
I knew of John O'Keefe. I had never met John O'Keefe.
When you first arrived at Fairview, was Mr. O'Keefe still on the ground?
He was not.
Was he at the scene?
He was not.
So when you got to the scene at Fairview, Mr. O'Keefe was already gone?
Yes, he had been transported to the hospital.
So did you ever firsthand see exactly where Mr. O'Keefe was lying when he was found?
I did not.
Did anybody point out to you the general area?
Yes.
Did you have a chance at that point to, well, obviously you didn't have a chance to examine or look at Mr. O'Keefe. Did you have a chance to look in the general area where you were told he was found?
I did.
Tell us a little bit more about the weather now that you're standing outside Fairview Road. What's the visibility like? What's the temperature like? What are the conditions like?
So it was terrible. It was blizzard-like. The wind would blow in your face. It would change directions. The snow was an icy snow. In the wind, you had to actually talk loud to be heard. Somebody right next to you, and it was your typical New England blizzard, basically.
At this point, did you have any position as you assessed the area whether this was a criminal investigation?
When we had no crime at that time.
When you were there, were you looking for anything?
Yes, I was examining the scene.
Okay. At that point, did you have any reason to start a criminal investigation?
Not at that time, no.
When you learned that Mr. O'Keefe was found outside, did you go look at the particular area?
Yes.
Can you describe the area that was shown to you where Mr. O'Keefe was found?
Sure. It was on the left side of the property of 34 Fairview. You could see where first responders and witnesses and police officers had walked up to the area. It was by a flagpole on the property line of number 32 Fairview.
What was the lighting condition at that point in that area?
It was dark. It was sun was coming up, but due to the weather and the cloud cover and the snow, its visibility still was not great.
Were the law enforcement vehicles providing any light for the area?
No.
How about the house? Was there any bright lights coming out of the house illuminating that area?
I didn't see any lights, window lights on. There may have been an exterior, the door light at one or two houses.
In addition to the law enforcement officers that were there, did you see any civilians when you got there?
No, there were no civilians there.
While you were outside looking at the area, did any civilians ever come out?
No, not at all.
Any civilians ever come out of 34 Fairview?
No.
How about next door, 32 Fairview? Did you ever see any civilians come out of that address?
Nobody ever came out of the house.
Across the street, is there homes across the street from 34 Fairview?
There is.
Did you see anybody come out of either one of those houses?
Did not see anybody come out of those houses.
When you were outside and you were shown the area where you were told Mr. O'Keefe was found, did you try to do anything regarding that area to identify the area itself?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again?
Yes. The area where you were told Mr. O'Keefe was found, did you try to do anything around that area to identify the area?
Well, it was marked out with crime scene tape at that time, and what I saw was pink blood, and it was in a circular pattern.
Was the crime scene tape holding up at all?
No, it was not. It was blowing wildly in the wind, and at one point it was actually blowing in. It was triangular, and it was actually blowing into the crime scene.
Was the tape helping at all?
No, it was not.
Was there any use putting a tent up at that point?
No, there wasn't, not due to the high winds.
Did you learn whether any of the officers had, at any point before you got there, gone into Fairview Road?
Yes.
Who did you learn went into Fairview Road?
Both Sergeant Good and Detective Sergeant Lake went into Fairview Road.
Did you know how long they were inside for?
Objection. I'll allow it. Did you know that?
I did not.
At that point, did you go and speak to anybody in any of the nearby homes?
I did not.
When you were at this scene and you saw what was happening in the weather, did you make a decision to do anything?
Yes.
What did you decide you were going to do?
Since the state police were not responding, I decided to process the area where Mr. O'Keefe was found and try to find out why he had the medical episode he was having.
If you understood this to be a medical episode, and at that point you didn't have any information it was a crime scene, why were you taking the time and effort to process the scene under these conditions?
Because that's what we do. Even the hospital, there could be a reason that there's obviously a reason he's there. I think we had a duty and obligation to check around where he was found and see if there was any explanation to what caused his medical condition.
Did you focus on a particular area when you decided to look around?
I did.
What area were you going to look at?
Where it was pointed out he was found and where the blood pattern was.
Were you thinking about looking in any other areas around that?
Not at that time.
Why not?
We didn't have any reason to. We only had the area where he was found.
And at that point, did you have any idea what caused his injuries?
We had none.
At this point, when you were pointed or you're looking at the area where Mr. O'Keefe was found, was the area getting covered up at all?
Yes, it was.
With what?
Snow.
How quickly?
Very quickly. I believe it was forecasted to come down to 1 to 2 inches an hour, if I recall.
Did you have any idea how hard the ground was at that point?
It was frozen.
Objection, Your Honor. No, did you have any idea?
It was frozen.
Objection. I'll allow it.
How deep was the snow covering that frozen ground?
Approximately 4 inches at that time.
When you wanted to look around the area, did you consider using a rake or a shovel?
I did.
And did you?
I did not.
Why didn't you use a shovel at that point?
I was afraid I would miss something or possibly break something.
What could you break with a shovel?
Anything, glass or
The
anything
hot
of
ground.
that nature.
You could break
What
ground
was
with
your
the shovel.
what was your decision about how you would search that area? What did you want to see?
I wanted to see anything that was possible, whether it was any type of weapon or any type of medical bottle or any reason that he could have come to where he was.
Did you think of a way that you could look below the top of the snow without unresting the scene?
Yes, I did.
And what did you conclude?
Because of the blood, the pink spots I thought might be blood, I thought a leaf blower would be the best method because I have seen it used and to remove light layers of snow, and it can be controlled.
And after having seen that before, making that decision, what was the benefit of a leaf blower over a shovel?
I wasn't going to miss anything with a leaf blower, much better control.
In control, tell us what your intention, what was your hope with the leaf blower?
To clear the area, controlled, slowly, so any potential evidence of what happened to Mr. O'Keefe wouldn't be lost.
Did you have a leaf blower with you?
Did not.
So what did you do?
Sergeant Good volunteered to go get a leaf blower.
Did you remain at the scene?
I did.
And during this time, you still have no information that it's a crime scene?
We had no information on a crime at that time.
Did Sergeant Good come back with the leaf blower?
He did.
Did you try to get any other items to help you?
Not that I recall.
Okay. When Sergeant Good came back with the leaf blower, did you use it?
I did.
Was it successful?
Very.
Tell us what you did.
I started with low speed and began whisking away the snow. And then I saw how it was uncovering those pink spots were becoming brighter red. So I verified it was frozen or coagulated blood at that time. And so out of the abundance of caution, I decided that that was something we may want to collect.
Why did you want to collect that?
Just out of abundance of caution, DNA. I expected it to be John's DNA. And I wasn't going to get a second chance at it. It was either collect it or never have it.
Were you making quick decisions under these circumstances?
Yes.
Did you ask somebody to get a container to put the coagulated blood in?
I ended up getting the containers.
Where did you get them from?
I got them from Lieutenant Kelleher, who lived in the neighborhood.
Did Lieutenant Kelleher ever come over to the scene?
He did not.
Did he work for the Canton Police Department?
He did.
Why didn't he come over to the scene with you?
Because he originally thought the scene was at 32.
Did you ask him to come over to the scene to help you?
No.
Did you expect him to come over to help you?
No.
Did you prefer he not?
Correct.
So
he doesn't want to be seen with the leaf blower.
Containers, were they plastic cups?
Yes, they were red Solo cups.
And what was the purpose of using the red Solo cups?
They were plastic. They weren't going to leak. They weren't going to get soggy. They were large. I needed a small sample. My thought was because it was frozen or coagulated, that we could collect it, transport it, and transfer it to the crime lab, who could extract the DNA however they saw best fit.
Do sometimes the crime lab test evidence and sometimes not?
Of course, yes.
Is that your decision?
No.
You were telling us about the leaf blower. Does it serve to excavate the area?
It did.
Did you begin that process?
I did.
And when you did that, did you try to memorialize it?
Yes, I did.
How did you do that?
I had Sergeant Good videotape it.
Why did you have Sergeant Good memorialize your efforts to excavate the area?
Because it was groundbreaking.
I thought someone may wonder why I decided to use a leaf blower, so I wanted to demonstrate its effectiveness.
I'm going to move to introduce two videos that council has.
Hey, officer, film this. Check this out. Get your camera.
So there's no objection to these videos, right?
No objection.
Exhibit 51.
Thank you. With the court's permission, can I show the jury?
Oops.
Exhibit 51.
Thank you. With the court's permission, can I show the jury the videos?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, can we show number 1, please?
Precision. Yes, it's working. It's working. It only works with powder snow, not with wet snow. Oh, there goes some. Hope that's not evidence. It's gone. It was. Oh, there goes some more evidence.
Could you, Ms. Gilman, stop at the end of the video so it's a still frame?
Catch the very last frame.
That's good right there. Sir, who's the person holding the leaf blower?
That is me.
Did the leaf blower work as you had hoped?
It was great.
You see other footprints around that area.
Correct.
Do you know how those footprints got there?
Some of them were from first responders. Some of them were for witnesses. The ones up top by the flagpole were for when the officers put out the crime scene tape.
Did officers try to wrap the crime scene tape around the flagpole?
They did wrap it around the flagpole, yes.
I see. And from that vantage point, could you see the side and front yard?
Yes.
Did the side yard have any footprints or evidence that anything was dragged through the side yard?
No, not at all.
How about the front yard? Did the front yard have any evidence that anybody had walked across it or dragged anything across it?
It had one set of prints from Sergeant Lang.
Other than Sergeant Lang's footprints across the front yard, was there any other impediment?
No, not that I saw.
I'm going to ask if we could see the second video, please, Ms. Gilman. Could you stop there, please? You see the end of the leaf blower?
I do.
There's an object just below it at like 7 o'clock. Do you see that?
I do.
Did you discover something in that area?
We did.
What did you discover?
It's a cocktail glass.
Was it, did it have any damage to it?
It did.
Describe that for us.
It was broken on the top.
Could you continue the video, please, Ms. Gilman?
Lots of lightning inside my house.
Stop, please. There's some red spots. Is that what you identified as coagulated blood?
That is.
Below some of those spots and to the left, there's an area that's not white. It's brownish. Do you know what that is?
That's, I believe, just bare ground.
If we could finish the video, please.
I guess we're done. Are you not going to play it?
Thank you. If you could have the lights on, please.
I guess that was the end.
Did you or any officer at your direction obtain and preserve that broken cocktail glass?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
So I'm showing you two photographs. The first photograph, do you recognize what's in that photograph?
I do.
What is it?
It's a after we exposed the broken, I exposed the broken glass.
Is the broken glass depicted in that photograph?
It is.
Is that similar or substantially the same way it appeared to you that morning?
That's exactly how it appeared, yes.
Do you know if that photograph was taken as a still image of the video or not?
I do not.
Okay. Second photograph, can you take a look at that?
That's a close-up of the cocktail glass.
Of the same photo?
It is, yes.
I'd move these two photographs into evidence, please.
Okay, do you want to be 52 and 52A?
Please, Your Honor.
Yeah, I might lose power. There's lightning all around my house right now.
It's 52, 52A.
I'm just prepared to gather evidence myself.
Lieutenant, what was done with that cocktail glass?
It was bagged and seized as evidence.
Was it brought anywhere that morning?
It was brought back to Canton Police Headquarters.
What happens when it gets back to Canton Police Headquarters?
It gets logged into evidence and it's assigned an evidence number. The officer types in a description of the item. In this case, it was a broken cocktail glass or broken glass. And once he hits the space bar, it automatically generates a property number for it. And I believe in this case, it was 22-18-PR, which means 22 is the year, 2022. 18 is how many pieces of evidence that the department as a whole had collected that year so far. And PR, I believe, means property room.
Why is it assigned a particular number?
Everything is assigned a number by the computer.
You said it's brought to the evidence room. Is that a separate or a special place?
So we have two rooms. We have a temporary evidence room, and then there's a permanent evidence room. Only two people have access to the permanent evidence room.
Is there a reason why access to the evidence room is limited?
There is.
Why?
For security.
Even in the police department, the evidence room is limited as far as people who have access?
That is correct.
In the evidence room, is there an officer assigned as an evidence officer?
Not full-time. There is an assigned admin sergeant who is assigned as the evidence officer.
Does anything happen specifically with the evidence? Is it packaged or stored in any particular way?
The glass was put into a locker, I believe, and temporary evidence. And then it's the evidence sergeant's job to retrieve it, but in this case, we were going to transfer it to the state police.
Was it transferred to the state police at some point?
It was.
Were you part of the transition of that item to the state police?
I was.
And when was it transitioned and to who?
It was on February 1st, 2022, and it was to a criminalist from the Massachusetts State Crime Lab.
Do you know who the criminalist was?
I don't know the name, no.
Did the criminals come to your department, or did you bring the item to them?
They came to our department.
In addition to the glass, there was plastic cups with coagulated blood?
That's correct.
What did you do with those cups?
Those were placed in temporary evidence and placed in a refrigerated unit.
To carry them from Fairview to the police department, did you hold the actual cups, or did you put them in something?
Nope, they were stacked in a bag.
Objection order. What type of bag?
They were stacked?
It was a craft paper bag. In this particular case, we utilized a Stop and Shop bag.
Is that any different than a bag from the police department?
Yes.
This made of the same paper, craft paper, the same size and dimension, other than Stop and Shop and evidence and probably price. They're basically the same bag.
Why did you use one of those rather than a bag that said evidence on it?
I don't know where that bag came from. I was in a personal car. Sergeant Lank was in a Tundra. If that bag is upside down, you wouldn't know it didn't say evidence on it. So I'm not sure where that bag came from.
And the plastic cups, do you know what happened to those?
Yes, they were turned over to the criminalist as well.
Where did you store them before they were turned over to the criminalist?
Temporary evidence in a refrigerated. Temporary evidence in a refrigerator.
Is the refrigerator part of the temporary evidence area?
It is, yes.
Is it also where you store your lunch?
Did you bring that piece of evidence, the broken glass, with you today?
Yes.
With the court's permission, I'd like to approach the witness.
He brought the evidence. This is great. Apparently, Stop and Shop upside down spells evidence.
handing you a box, gloves, and some scissors.
Don't hurt
Let me
yourself,
ask you about
please.
that box. It has red tape on it. Why?
It's a secure and transfer of custody.
Sigh. Defense is a little upset that all their objections are just allowed. And I'm like, maybe you don't understand what our objection is. Can we come sidebar and explain the position? If the bag were inverted, it would say evidence. That was a great... You wouldn't know. No, nobody would know. Nobody would know. It's basically all the same letters. Right? Stop and shop when you turn it. It sort of looks like an E over here. The O looks a lot like a V. There's evidence. H and I are close together in the alphabet. Evidence. Evidence. Police evidence. See, once you see it, you can't unsee it. I need to remember who sent me the Stop and Shop bag last year. I don't have any around me. Who was it that sent that to me? I appreciate that. It may have been the same person who sent me the menu they stole from the goat. Remember? Oh, let's see. That was pants. Pants, I knew you'd probably get a chuckle out of some New England true crime memorabilia. Thanks for doing what you do. There's the autograph on the back of the goat. Do you remember the goat, the trial where the goat was, yeah, that was a fun one. Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't mention how sterile the Shop and Stop bags are. I'm sure all the staff at Stop and Shop use new gloves for each customer. And everything is sterilized between interactions, and I'm sure nothing was placed in it that might have been handled by 50 or so delivery people and store shelves stockers and individuals who came in to buy something, change their mind, put it back on the shelf, anything else. So really no problem there, evidence-wise, as far as, craft paper is really craft paper at the end of the day. So, did RA just admit to receiving stolen property? This is an actual menu. Like, it's got little metal corners. It is laminated, probably because people spill drinks on it. And it's just their drop beers and canned beers. Looking for the there it is, White Claw. They have White Claw on here, so... There it is. White Claw. White Claw Black Cherry. I don't know it was stolen. They might have gotten it with permission. All right. Next time at the goat, I can grab you a sweatshirt. That would be awesome. The goat sweatshirt would rock. Miss Chris, that would be incredible. Tell me what I'd owe you for that. Here, let me give him this. The leaf blower thing seems to work. It seemed to work.
Lieutenant, before you open the box, were you one of the officers that discovered that broken glass?
Yes.
Did you personally bring the glass from Fairview to Canton?
No.
Do you know who did?
Yes.
Who?
Detective Sergeant Lang.
Sergeant Lang?
Yes.
When you went back to the station, you said that the evidence was then put into an evidence locker. Did you place it in the evidence locker?
I don't recall.
And then inevitably, it was transitioned to somebody from the forensic unit?
That's correct.
Were you personally there when it was taken from the evidence locker and given to the person from the forensic unit?
Yes, that was me.
Did you have a responsibility and role in that process, or were you a passive observer?
There's a break in the chain.
I had an active role. I was the chain of custody. I was turning it over to the criminalist, to the state police lab.
After that glass was given to the criminalist, did you ever have possession of it again?
Never.
Did you ever package it or touch it again in any way?
No, never.
Did you ever process it in any way?
No.
Did you put it in that box and tape it up yourself?
No.
Okay, I'm going to now ask you to open the box, please.
Now that we've proven the chain of custody was never complete, go ahead and open it with scissors. That is not how you use scissors, sir. It's a huge box for a cocktail glass. It's massive.
Is there an item in that bag?
There is.
Would you please open the bag and show us what's in that bag?
Is that an Amazon box? Can you pan down, Cameron? Just a little lower. Is his clock face on his watch purple to match his gloves? Well, that's far enough. Yeah, just let him be able to reuse it. Impactful moment.
Thank you. If you could put it back in the bag and the bag back in the box, please.
That landed under his body as well.
Lieutenant Gallagher, does that appear to be the same item that you found in the area where John O'Keefe was at Fairview that morning?
Yes, it does.
I'd like to have the box and the item marked for identification, please.
Okay.
We've been mocking them all along. So, oh, marked. Sorry, I thought you said mocked.
With the Q for ID. Thank you.
When you were looking around the area that was pointed out to you as where John O'Keefe was found, did you expand across the front lawn into the street during your search?
No, we didn't, with the exception of uncovering the 6-foot asphalt berm.
Did you say 6 foot, or is it?
Excuse me, 6-inch.
What's a berm?
Just shrunk. Size matters.
It's basically a curbing, but it's made of asphalt. It's curved. You probably have seen it. It's asphalt. It's curved. It separates the street from property line.
Why did you clear that piece?
Wanted to see. We're trying to find out why John was having a medical issue, and we didn't know if he could have tripped over a curbing or what turned out to be an asphalt berm and possibly hit his head.
After you made efforts to look in that area, did you return to the Canton Police Department?
I did.
About what time?
It was shortly after 8 a.m.
After you returned to the Canton Police Department, did you receive any information or have a reason to return back to Fairview?
Yes.
About what time?
A little after 9 o'clock.
Why did you go back to Fairview after 9 o'clock?
Sergeant Lank got a phone call that Jen McCabe had more information.
And where did you understand Mrs. McCabe was?
At 34 Fairview.
Did you go back to 34 Fairview?
I did.
Did you go with anybody?
I went with Sergeant Lank.
Did you travel together or separate?
Together.
When you got back to 34 Fairview, outside, what did you do?
We parked in the driveway. We walked up, and next to the garage, there's a side door. I don't know if we rang the bell or knocked, but Brian Albert, the homeowner, answered the door.
As you walked up to the door, did you have a chance to look around at the doors in the area in front of that side door?
Yes.
Did you see anything out of place?
No.
You've been a police officer at that point for a long time?
Yes.
Do you receive any training in observing areas or people?
Always.
What type of training? What are you told to look for when you're speaking to people?
I've been BOSAR trained, which is behavioral observation, suspicious activity training. And you look for clues when you're speaking to people, whether they cross their legs, cross their arms, there's certain behavioral characteristics.
At this point, did you have any understanding that this would later be a crime scene?
I did, yes.
What happened? How did you come to that conclusion?
Oh, not at that time.
Oh, not at that time?
No,
okay.
Not at that time.
Should the jury look for those
when
clues?
When you went
with
into
witnesses?
the house, what part of the house did you go into?
I went into the room. It's adjacent to the kitchen, and I stood there with Brian Albert.
Can you describe what kind of room that would be?
Yeah, it was just a typical family room type room. It was not large. It was between the garage and the kitchen.
You met with Brian Albert?
Brian Albert answered the door and let us into the house.
Did you understand what his relationship was to that house?
He was the homeowner.
Did Sergeant Lank walk in with you?
He did.
Did he stay in that living area?
No, he went to the kitchen area and sat down with Jen McCabe.
Could you see the kitchen area from where you were?
I could see a portion of the kitchen area.
Did you see anybody else in the kitchen area with Mrs. McCabe and Sergeant Lank?
There were people in the kitchen area. There was nobody with Sergeant Lank or Miss McCabe.
Could you hear their conversation?
No.
Were you trying to listen?
No.
Were you speaking to Mr. Albert?
I was.
Did you take the time to make observations of him?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll allow it.
Did you take the time to make observations of him?
Yes.
Did you speak to him?
Yes.
Did he speak to you?
Yes.
Was there anything about his mannerisms or affect that caused you any concern?
No, it was just a social conversation. There was nothing of concern at all.
Was there anything about it that caused you to hone in or be concerned?
No.
I'll allow that.
No.
Did you get a chance to look around that living area at the
Sure.
items?
I didn't look around, just with my eyes.
Did you get to see that area?
I did.
Did you see anything broken or looked out of place?
No. Nothing.
Anything that caused you any type of concern?
Nothing.
When you looked towards the kitchen, did you see anything that looked different or suspicious in any way?
Nothing.
Was the interaction, did it cause you any alarm or concerns?
No.
After Sergeant Lank had an opportunity to speak to Mrs. McCabe and you spoke to Brian Albert, what did you do next?
We left.
Where did you go?
We went back to the police department and were informed that the state police were going to respond to the hospital and that we didn't need to respond to the hospital.
When you heard that the state police was then going to get involved in the investigation, what does Canton do when the state police takes over an investigation?
Well, it was based off of a conversation I had with my chief in the detective sergeant's office.
Was there a decision about Canton's involvement in the ongoing investigation?
There was.
What was that decision?
That we should recuse ourselves from any further investigative interviews.
And why was that?
Because our best detective, his name was Kevin Albert, and he was the brother of the homeowner, and I didn't want any potential bias, whether unconscious or subjective, to be perceived by the O'Keefe's, by the O'Keefe family.
So when the state police got involved and you had the conversation with the chief, was that the end of your efforts towards this?
It was the end of our efforts until, I helped facilitate during the search warrant on February 1st.
And so at some point, was the defendant's Lexus brought to the Canton Police Department?
It was.
Was it put in a particular area at the Canton Police Department?
It was.
What area?
The Sally Port.
What's a Sally Port?
Sally Port is where, when we have an arrest, we bring our prisoners in. It's basically a extra large garage. It has 4 doors. They're numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. We typically go in door 4 and pull towards door 3. Door 4 is lowered, and then prisoners are walked into the booking area, which is also secure. The exterior doors to the Sally Port can only be opened by the dispatch council.
When crime scene services came to look at the car, was that the same day, the 29th, or later time?
No, it was February 1st.
Did the Lexus remain in the Sallyport area from the 29th until February 1st?
Yes.
When representatives from the crime lab from the Massachusetts State Police came on February 1st, who provided them access to the Lexus?
I was one of the people there that was there. I don't know if I provided them direct access, but I certainly would have. And I assisted them if they needed things. That's when the chain of custody, the exchange of custody for the blood samples, and the glass occurred as well.
And during their processing of the Lexus, were you there for parts of it?
I was in and out, yes, but I did not partake.
Thank you very much.
I did not partake. That sounds like I did not inhale.
Please. Mr. Jackson, is this video up there yours, or is it the Commonwealth?
It's not mine. Or is it?
All right.
Here we go. Was there a sign in there?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher, you have already established that you were at the scene on January 29th, early morning, January 29th, 2022. We've seen the video of the leaf blower, correct?
That is correct.
So you were integral to at least an initial search of the scene, which recovered the drinking glass that you've shown us, as well as some of the blood byproduct that you've talked about.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. You were the ranking person on the scene. You've already described that.
Yes, that is correct.
There were also several other officers from Canton PD who were there with you.
Yes, there was 4 other officers, yes.
Can you just name those other officers?
Yeah, Detective Sergeant Lank, L-A-N-K, Detective Sergeant Good, G-O-O-D-E, Officer Mullaney, M-U-L-L-A-N-E-Y, and Officer Saraf, S-A-R-A-F.
Okay. When you initially... Let me back up and ask a different question.
All glasses in Canton are drinking
you were the
glasses.
ranking officer, the way that it works in a police department is everybody sort of reports up the chain of command, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So they would have all reported up to you in some particular.
That's correct.
And then, of course, you report to the deputy chief, and then the deputy chief reports on up to the chief, correct?
That is correct.
You were involved in not only the exposing of some of that blood byproduct, but also exposing the glass with the leaf blower, correct?
That is correct.
You were responsible for utilizing certain equipment. You chose a leaf blower at the time, correct?
I did, yes.
There was also, I'm guessing, there was also some use of your hands and or the gloved hands with some others to recover some of the items.
Yeah, I didn't use my hands.
How did you get the glass into a bag?
That was Detective Sergeant Lank.
Somebody had to pick it up, right?
Correct.
That's what I mean. The use of hands to manipulate some of the evidence, correct?
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't understand that question.
That's okay.
I thought you were speaking about me.
It's probably my fault, not yours.
Nope, that's okay.
There was also some plastic cups that we've talked about. We'll talk more about those in a second. Those were utilized as well, correct?
They were, yes.
And you were responsible for the use of those as well?
Yes. It was my decision, yes.
In terms of the search of the scene, the recovery of evidence, the recovery of biological material, the use of tools to recover those biological materials, all of that rested at least ultimately at the scene on your shoulders, correct?
Yes, it did.
Isn't it true that you weren't interviewed in this case with regard to anything having to do with this case until April 3rd, 2024, correct?
Yes, we can call it an interview. It's when I met with the prosecutor, yes.
And that was about 2.5 years, nearly 2.5 years after this incident, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Michael Proctor, you know that name?
I do.
Who's Michael Proctor?
He was one of the troopers assigned to investigate the case.
As a matter of fact, he was the lead investigator for the case, correct?
I don't know if he was lead or trooper mechanic. I don't know.
As you sit here, you don't know that Michael Proctor was the lead case agent for...
I know he was one of them, yes.
Okay. Do you know that he was the lead investigator assigned to the case?
I don't. I had nothing to do with the DA's office.
Right. I know you didn't have anything...
I don't know how they assign their cases, counsel. I don't know what you want me to say. I can't say what I don't know.
Mr. Gallagher, I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking if...
I did not know he was lead. I know he was one of the leads.
Okay.
I believe they do it in a tandem, but I'm not sure.
Okay. He may have had a partner, correct?
That is correct, yes.
But it's not unusual to have a lead case agent. The person who's responsible for most of the search warrant writing and the memorialization of documentation of evidence collection and the movement of evidence and booking into evidence, things like that.
That is correct, but I don't know anything about who wrote their affidavits or who logged their evidence in. I wouldn't know that.
You're also familiar with Yuri Buchanan, correct?
I know who he is.
You're also familiar with Lieutenant Tully?
I know, yes.
They're all Massachusetts State Police officers, correct?
Yes, they all are.
Did Michael Proctor interview you before April of 2024?
He did not.
Did Yuri Buchanan interview you before April of 2024?
No, he did not.
Did Lieutenant Tully interview you before April of 2024?
No, he did not.
Did anybody else from the Canton Police Department, your deputy chief or the chief, interview you formally about your conduct and responsibilities before April of 2024?
I don't understand that question.
Did anybody at Canton PD, separating out Massachusetts State Police,
Correct.
Did you sit down at Canton PD and provide an interview with anybody at Canton PD about your conduct at the scene?
What do you mean by conduct?
Going to the scene, collecting evidence, securing evidence, transporting evidence, booking evidence, those kinds of things. Your conduct at the scene, sir.
Yeah, I briefed my superiors, yes.
Okay, other than briefing, was there a formal report written?
No.
Or a formal interview conducted of you?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Tell us when you wrote your report about what happened at the scene, memorializing what you did at the scene.
I didn't.
You didn't write a report?
About the scene that day at the scene?
Correct, about this investigation.
I only did the metadata report. I did not write a report at the scene.
You never, in fact, the fact is you never wrote any report about what happened at the scene, correct?
Correct.
You didn't memorialize that in any formal way on Canton PD letterhead to describe what you did and how you did it at the scene?
No.
First murder investigation?
Normally when you report to a scene as a first responder, you would be expected to write a report about that, whatever that conduct is.
I'm not the supervisor, no.
What if you're the ranking person at a scene that ultimately turns into a homicide scene?
Well, we don't know it's a homicide scene at this time. We don't even know there's a crime committed at this time. My responsibilities are to make sure reports are written, not to necessarily write the reports myself. I'm the supervisor. It's my job to make sure reports are written, evidence is logged, those types of things.
Under ordinary circumstances, you would respond to a scene as a supervisor, and you would oversee what other people are doing.
That's correct.
Can I finish?
Sure.
I don't want to talk over each other.
I apologize.
You would want a supervisor oversee what your subordinate officers, whatever he or she might be doing or they might be doing. You're going to oversee that. But they're the ones actually conducting the investigation or picking up evidence or doing the interviews, writing those things of that nature.
Correct. Detective Sergeant Lake's investigation, yes.
So in that circumstance, you wouldn't be expected to write a report because all of that conduct is memorialized by others subordinate to the supervisor, correct?
Correct.
But in this case, quite the opposite happened. You were the one that was in the video utilizing the leaf blower, correct?
That's correct.
You were the one that actually exposed the drinking glass, correct?
Correct, yes.
You noted the drinking glass and actually called somebody else over to take a look at it, correct?
That's correct.
You directed someone, Sergeant Lang, to pick up the drinking glass and recover it as a potential piece of evidence, correct?
That is correct.
You noted the blood or the coagulation of blood in and around that area, correct?
That is correct.
You noted where you believe the drinking glass was, in other words, what location, if there were grid coordinates, where it would be, correct?
Correct.
And you instructed others to transport that important evidence back to Canton PD to have it booked, correct?
That is correct.
You also secured the plastic containers in which to recover the blood.
That is
right?
correct.
You also directed someone to get a bag to put the plastic containers in and ultimately transport it, correct?
That is correct.
So you would agree with me, Mr. Gallagher, that in this circumstance, you were the centerpiece of the recovery of evidence and the investigation as it was at that time in that limited context. You were the centerpiece of what was happening at the scene, correct?
And I made sure it was documented by Detective Sergeant Lang.
But you didn't find it important enough to write a report yourself.
I think that's poor misrepresentation. There's a person fighting for their life. It was very important.
When you were there at the scene at, what time was it, by the way?
I got there shortly after 7.
Okay, you knew that that person who was fighting for his life had already been transported and was in good care, as best care we can provide at Good Samaritan Hospital, correct?
That is correct.
So certainly you're not excusing away the idea that you didn't memorialize your conduct because you were too busy fighting for someone's life. That's not what you're saying.
No, it definitely is not what I'm saying.
Obviously, reporting to a scene and supervising a scene is one thing, but actually gathering evidence is a whole next level. You would agree with that?
Sure.
Because, just to put a fine point on it, responding to a scene as a supervisor, you want to make sure everybody's doing their duty, but the officer or officers who, for instance, uncover, let's say it's a knife or a gun or some weapon or something like that, actually documenting and picking up that evidence and handling it up in an appropriate way, that is all highly, highly technical. It's very important to get it right and memorialize it all, correct?
That is correct.
That's why you're highly trained to memorialize and report everything that you do in that regard in a report that can later be used forensically, in other words, in a courtroom setting, to recreate as best you can with as much detail as you can exactly what you did and how you did it and where it was done, correct?
Sure, yes.
Officer Lank wrote a report in this case.
Sure.
Did Officer Mullaney?
I believe he did, yes.
Did Officer Seraph?
Yes.
Officer Good? Sergeant Good?
Yes.
But you did not?
I did not.
Rank has its privileges.
Who was the first officer to find any potential physical evidence at the scene, be it blood or glass?
I can't answer that. It was not me. I was not the first thing that was spotted was the pink spotting, not the glass.
Okay. Who was the first person to see the glass?
I think it was myself as I uncovered it with the leaf blower.
One of the important things that we've talked about, Mr. Gallagher, is documenting the details of evidence recovery, not just the fact that something was recovered, correct?
That's correct.
So you'd want to know what time of day it was recovered, correct?
Sure.
You'd want to know who was there and who was around when it was recovered, correct?
Yes.
You'd want to know what the item is, the condition of the item, right?
Yes.
You'd also want to know exactly where it's recovered, correct?
Yes.
In other words, as best you can to pinpoint the exact location where an item was found. That could play a huge role in any investigation, be it criminal or otherwise.
It could. It could.
Did you diagram or draw a diagram back at Canton PD or out at the scene?
No.
About where that glass was found?
No, I did no reports or diagrams.
Did you diagram exactly where you recovered the blood spots that you did recover?
No.
Did you at least, if you did write a report, did you at least take notes on a pad about what you were doing?
Yeah, conditions weren't, it was pretty hard to take notes at that time, but I did not take notes, no.
At some point, you mentioned a person by the name of Tom Kelleher, Deputy Chief Kelleher.
That's correct.
Who is Deputy Chief Kelleher?
He's the Deputy Chief of Canton Police.
He was active on active duty at the time? When I say active duty, I don't mean that morning, that hour. I mean just generally.
Yes, he was a lieutenant at that time.
He was someone to whom, as a matter of fact, probably the only person to whom at Canton PD you actually reported, correct? Up the chain of command. He was the only person to whom you reported up the chain of command, meaning he was your direct report.
He was in charge of detectives at that time. Yes.
And then, of course, the chief would be above him, correct?
Deputy Chief and Chief.
Okay. When you responded to the scene, Deputy Chief Kelleher did not come out of his house and take over the investigation, correct?
Correct.
That was yours to detail,
That is correct.
At least while you were there.
That is correct.
So can you describe what you did to preserve the crime scene? I'm sorry, to preserve the scene, because at that time you said you did not know if it was a crime scene. Is that right?
That's correct.
What did you do in terms of actually preserving the scene for later investigation? What steps did you take?
For later, can you explain later investigation?
So let me take a step back.
Sure.
Have you been trained to preserve scenes?
Yes.
Okay. What's the reason that you want to preserve a scene? What does that mean?
Collect evidence.
Collect evidence and make sure nothing is disturbed, correct?
Correct.
Civilians can't kind of traipse through or walk through evidence, correct?
That's correct.
You've heard the phrase forensically, evidence in, evidence out. Someone traipses through a crime scene, you bring evidence with you, and you take it back out on your shoes or on your feet or your breath or your saliva, whatever it might be.
Very familiar with that, yes.
On your breath?
Preserving the scene.
Are you drinking the evidence?
It's best efforts, it's best practices to make sure that nothing is moved, touched, messed with in any way, correct?
That's correct, and that's what was done here.
Okay. What did you do? That's my question. What did you do to preserve that scene?
So there were no civilians ever to trample through. Were rescue efforts made on Mr. O'Keefe? Yes, that's priority. So rescue workers do go into any type of scene. Medical life-saving measures come first. Once all apparatus was off scene, the original officers put out crime scene tape to mark an area. And later, it was documented, it was photographed, and evidence was collected.
And it was searched by you, at least initially with the leaf blower.
Correct.
Okay. So you were interested in the area that, by the way, I want to clear this up, make sure I'm not mistaken. You described for Mr. Brennan basically where Mr. O'Keefe's body was, correct?
Yes, yes.
You never saw his body in situ. You never saw his body in place.
That is correct.
You were told by Sergeant Lank generally where his body was, correct?
Yes, and Sergeant Lank actually never saw Mr. O'Keefe either.
That's my next question.
Okay, and Mr. Good and Sergeant Good as well.
Right. Sergeant Lank never saw John O'Keefe actually in place, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So you're receiving information from Sergeant Lank that he did not have personal knowledge of, and then you're providing that information later to crime scene investigators who are trying to establish a diagram or some sort of a chart about where that evidence was, where the drinking glass was, where his body was, correct?
No, I never spoke to anybody in that manner about that.
Didn't you ultimately go out to the scene along with others at Massachusetts State Police when they had a drone overhead?
No, you're mistaken. I can clarify it for you if you wish.
Sure.
So on February 1st, after the execution of the warrant, they wanted to go down to the scene. It was Trooper Proctor and somebody from the CARS team, I'm not sure of the name. Once they got down there, I did show them where I was shown John O'Keefe was. They did want to put up a drone, but they could not do it because they were too close to Norwood Airport and because of FAA regulations. Okay. And that was the last of my involvement with that. I hope that clarifies things for you.
Forget the drone. I'm interested in the first part, which was you accompanied Trooper Proctor to the scene, correct?
Correct.
There were other members of CARS, C-A-R-S.
I think there was one. Crash accident reconstruction section, I'm assuming.
Okay, so it's a forensic, a member of MSP who does forensic diagrams, correct?
I would say. I don't know if they do diagrams. I don't know what they do.
Or reconstruction of some sort.
Sure, reconstruction of some sort.
They probably do reports.
You were there to help provide information about where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found, correct?
And be a Canton police officer present in case any neighbors had come out.
So you were there to help provide information about, or at least you did provide information to them about where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found.
Oh, sure, yes.
Except you didn't see Mr. O'Keefe's body, did you?
No, I did not.
So that was a guess on your part.
It was what I was shown. It's the information I had.
Yeah, it was the information you were told by Sergeant Lang, correct?
Yes.
Who also didn't see John O'Keefe in place on the ground at 34 Ferry, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So his would be a guess also, correct?
Well, we're going backwards. So he was told by Sergeant Good and et cetera. So it was information passed along, which is what police officers do.
Right. But the police officer that was out there at the scene, who was helping the reconstructionist establish the formal report, and the CARS report was an officer who not only didn't see where John O'Keefe's body was, you got information about where John's body was from someone who didn't see it either. Correct? Can we at least agree on that?
You have to go back to the beginning. I didn't understand the beginning of that question.
Sure,
It was very
I'll try it
long.
again. The point is, Mr. Gallagher, you happen to be tapped as the person who is going to assist the CARS folks, the MSP, in creating their CARS, ultimately their CARS report.
No.
Isn't it true that you accompanied Trooper Proctor and members of the CARS unit to document Fairview Road and the scene of the incident?
Yeah, I thought I explained it could not be done.
Okay.
So
I'm not
I wasn't, I only went to show them where Mr. O'Keefe was and in case any neighbors came out. I wasn't there to assist in any documentation at all.
You were there. You know who Brian Tully is?
I do.
Have you reviewed Brian Tully's report?
I have not. You showed me one section of it.
Isn't it true that what you actually told Brian Tully is that you went with Trooper Proctor, and you're already shaking your head now. I haven't even finished the question.
No.
I got that part wrong? You accompanied Trooper Proctor?
No, what's wrong is I was interviewed by Lieutenant Tully. That was a meeting I had with Prosecutor Lally.
Okay.
Trooper Tully was present. Trooper Tully never asked me any question. I don't recall Trooper Tully ever asking me a question, sir.
So let me be a little bit more defined. So in Trooper Tully's report, where he reports what you said, you were actually talking to Adam Lally, my colleague sitting up in front.
Correct.
Okay. So now we've got that cleared up. Let me ask you again. Did you say in front of Trooper Tully that you accompanied Trooper Proctor and members of the CARS unit to document Fairview Road?
Meeting, they were documenting Fairview Road. It's not clear. The report's not clear. They were going to document Fairview Road, not me.
So you just said something that I want to follow up on.
Okay.
The report's not clear, correct?
That's correct.
So that's an inaccurate report.
I wouldn't call it inaccurate at all. I'm just saying you're misinterpreting the wording.
I see. And I'm misinterpreting it even though I just read it directly from the report?
Yeah, sometimes sentences have different meanings.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
Okay. The reality is you did end up going to the scene, correct?
I did.
And you accompanied, I don't want to use a word that you'll challenge, you went with Trooper Proctor, correct?
I took my cruise into 34 Fairview, yes.
You were there at the same time Trooper Proctor was?
Yes.
And you were aware that the CARS team was there so that they could document the scene, correct?
I don't know what the purpose of the drone was. I'm not familiar with that section. I thought I answered that question. I'm not familiar with what they do.
But you do believe that as you sit here, you were there, we weren't. You do believe that that's the reason that they were there was to document the scene.
Put up a drone.
Okay.
I don't know what you mean by document. I don't know if it was to photograph, I guess, which if you mean by document photograph, I guess it could, I would agree. If it means take measurements, I wouldn't know.
Okay.
Playing the fool
did
a
you
little bit
tell
here. Seems
any
disingenuous.
of the members of the CARS team where you believed John's body was?
I believe it was Trooper Proctor, but I believe he was there, yes.
Trooper Proctor obviously was not there when John's body was there either, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So he would have gotten that information
From you. That is correct.
So now that's 3 people.
It's probably more, quite honestly, yeah.
Well, I'm just talking about this report.
Correct.
The CARS report. That's 3 people in line. None of them saw John's body, John O'Keefe's body, as it lay in the lawn when he was recovered.
That is correct, yes.
And there's no photographs
Of
Mr. O'Keefe.
Oh, no.
At the location.
No, we wouldn't. Nobody would photograph somebody undergoing life-saving measures. Wouldn't be appropriate.
There's no video, specifically.
They wouldn't take video of somebody undergoing life-saving measurements.
There's no body cam.
We don't have body cameras.
There's no dash cam that shows it.
Well, dash cameras would be on the road. Mr. O'Keefe was approximately 8 to 10 feet off the road.
Well, hang on a second. You're not sure where Mr. O'Keefe was because you never saw him.
That's why I used a range, yes.
Right. So
I know where the blood was. I know where the glass was.
Right. You don't know if he was 7 to 9 feet off.
That's correct.
12 feet off. You can't say.
I could only approximately. You are correct. Yes.
You did meet with Officer Seraph. You met with all the officers when you arrived at the scene, correct?
Yes.
And Officer Seraph had been there from the beginning of the morning.
Yes.
Officer Seraph didn't report to you at that time any statements attributable to my client, did he?
He did not, no.
You later went back to 34 Fairview with Sergeant Lank.
That's correct.
And you rode back. Did you ride back to Canton PD with Sergeant Lank or separate cruisers?
Which time? I apologize.
I'm sorry. That's a vague question on my part. You went back to 34 Fairview with just Officer Lank, and you described a circumstance in which you went in, you were let in by Brian Albert. He went to the kitchen. You were in the family room or some other place.
Right by the kitchen, yeah.
Right by the
room
kitchen.
off the kitchen, yes.
Okay, so right next to where he was interviewing.
That's correct.
Jennifer McCabe.
Yes.
Did you ride back from that meeting with, or that event to Canton PD with Sergeant Lank?
Yes.
And Sergeant Lank didn't say anything to you about his interview with Jennifer McCabe at that time?
I don't recall our conversation on the way back.
Okay. And you didn't write a report about any conversation that you had with Officer Seraph? You didn't write a report about any conversation you had with Sergeant Lank?
No, they're responsible for writing their own reports.
Got it. You did say that let me back up and ask you a different question. You testified about a year ago in another proceeding. You talked a little bit about the evidence collection of the biological material, the blood, or I'm guessing at that time, presumed blood. You haven't done any testing.
That's correct, yes, sir.
But you assumed it was blood just because of your experience and it looked like it could be blood on the street.
That's correct.
How far were you from Canton PD, approximately? A drive.
Mile and a half.
Mile and a half. You had your cruiser with you.
I had my personal vehicle with me.
Your personal vehicle. In other words, your ambulance where you could get from point A to point B if you wanted to.
Yeah, I was the scene supervisor. I wasn't leaving the scene.
Okay. But you also had subordinate folks at the scene that you could have dispatched had you wanted to.
Correct.
They all had cruisers.
Yes, they did.
Or personal vehicles, I'm not sure which.
I'm sorry?
Or personal vehicles, I'm not sure which.
I was the only one with a personal vehicle. Detective Sergeant Lank had a Toyota Tundra pickup truck that is not marked, but it's assigned to our detective unit.
So if you wished to, as the ranking officer at the scene, you could have dispatched one or more of those officers to run an errand, to go do something in furtherance of the investigation, had you wanted to.
Yeah, I actually did that.
Okay, you did. What did you do in that regard?
Remember, I sent Sergeant Good to get the leaf blower.
Got it. You also know that Canton PD has evidence collection bags at Canton PD.
Yes.
You also know that they have materials and tools to gather biological material, correct?
We do have swabs, yes.
And those swabs go in little containers to maintain their sanitary nature, correct?
That is correct, yes.
In other words, if you see a blood stain, you don't just walk up with a Kleenex that you find on the ground and wipe it up. There's your blood stain. There's a process for gathering that type of evidence, correct?
Sure. If you're looking for DNA, you can use a bloody Kleenex, to your point.
It'd be kind of an emergency.
Yeah, absolutely. My point exactly.
But if you're a mile from the Canton PD,
yeah,
you could have gone back and gotten a swab.
Could have.
But you didn't.
Didn't want to because of the weather, because you just said because it's an emergency, and we thought it was an emergency there. I mean, the storm was coming down terribly, and I believe if we didn't collect that biological matter, we weren't going to get that biological matter.
But Canton PD was a mile and a half away, 4 or 5 minutes.
In a blizzard.
Still, in a blizzard, I feel like it's 3 minutes in good weather, probably 4, 5, 6 minutes in a blizzard, correct?
I'm not sure.
So let's call it 12, 15 minutes. You certainly could have gone back. If you wanted to, you could have dispatched one of your officers to go back and get swabs and properly collect the blood material. Right?
Sure. And I believed 15 minutes would have made a difference.
And what you did instead is Well, 15 minutes would have made a difference, but you asked Sergeant Good to drive to his house and get a leaf blower.
Yes, and while he was doing that, we were documenting the scene with photographs.
You could have documented the scene with photographs even if you went back and get a swab. What's the difference?
Because we were ongoing. It was ongoing. I wasn't leaving the scene.
I didn't ask you to leave the scene. I didn't ask if you were leaving the scene.
Needed the other officers. We talked about scene security. I already let one officer go. I now have 3 left. We're securing that scene.
So you saw pink stains.
There are no neighbors. There are no people out.
That's correct.
No
And
civilians.
you said, Officer Good, probably called him Sean, Sarge, go home and get a leaf blower.
That is correct.
Could have said, Officer Mulaney, get your butt over to Canton PD and pick up 10 swabs, correct?
He wouldn't have had access to the swabs.
Oh, so now one of your officers could have gotten the swabs, even if a lieutenant, a ranking lieutenant, had dispatched him to go get a swab.
Because he doesn't have access to the BCI, the Office of BCI, where our stuff is kept.
Could you have made a phone call?
No, nobody there would have had access at that time. It was only Officer Dever on the desk.
So you're the only person that could have gotten those swabs?
Sergeant Lang could have gotten them as well.
So Sergeant Lang could have too?
Sure.
But you didn't say that?
No, definitely didn't.
Okay. What you did do, however, is you went to the neighbor's house. Happened to be Tom Keller, correct?
The lieutenant of detectives, yes.
Right. And Lieutenant Kelleher gave you red Solo cups.
Yes. I asked for plastic or glass containers. He had Solo cups, and I utilized them.
The same kind of Solo cups that we all see at backyard barbecues.
Yep, they hold liquid terrifically.
They're also not sealed, correct?
They are not.
They're also not used normally. I mean, they were here. They're not normally used for evidence collection, correct?
Oh, absolutely not.
Absolutely.
And then you decided you needed to transport that very important biological material back to Canton PD for storage and safekeeping, correct?
That's correct.
And why was it important to transport that blood material so what are the factors that you considered, weighed and balanced, in terms of getting that material back to Canton PD in good condition, in sanitary condition?
So a criminalist could extract a proper DNA sample.
What would happen, for instance, if that blood material, I don't know, were contaminated?
Contaminated how?
You tell me. You're the professional.
So DNA is pretty hardy, pretty forensically stable. The only things that are going to harm it are radiation, ultraviolet light, harsh chemicals such as bleach. That's not present here. I wasn't. Then you would have 2 sets of DNA when it's tested, which would benefit you.
Well, it depends on whose DNA it is.
That's correct. Right? That's correct.
Right. May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
While you were, I'm going to stay on this for a second. So obviously there's a reason why blood swabs or biological swabs are handled with such care. For instance, a DNA analyst is going to put on gloves.
Correct.
Oftentimes they're going to put on a mask, right?
I don't know about that.
Oftentimes they put on goggles. Is that right?
It depends what they're testing.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you go out and collect something, you'll see CSI, crime scene investigators, in full body suits when they walk into a crime scene.
Yeah, you can.
Because you don't want to contaminate the scene with your own hair off your arm or an eyelash falling into a blood stain, correct?
That is correct.
Right. So there are protocols. I mean, you said just a second ago, Mr. Gallagher, well, it's DNA. Unless somebody pours bleach in it, you're pretty much golden, right? That's not quite the fact, is it?
And that's not quite what I said.
No, it's not quite what you said. You were suggesting that it's hardy enough that it doesn't really matter if it's contaminated or not. If there's multiple people's DNA, it just benefits everybody.
No, I simply asked what you meant by contamination.
Okay. So it could be contaminated with debris, is that right?
Sure it can.
It could be contaminated with other people's DNA, is that right?
It can.
It could be contaminated with foreign items, foreign either aerosols or somebody's spittle when they're talking, correct?
Sure.
Contaminated with 1,000 things.
Hypothetically.
Right. Of course, these Solo cups didn't have lids on them, right?
They did not.
They were open?
Yes.
You didn't photograph where you picked up the samples?
No.
You didn't document where you picked up the samples.
No.
So if the samples were in 6, how many solo cups were there?
6.
6 solo cups. We don't know as we sit here where each of those solo cups contents came from specifically, do we?
Specifically, no.
Okay. Then those solo cups with no lids were placed into a bag, right?
That's correct.
You said on direct examination that this was a brown paper bag, right?
It is. Stop and Shop, I believe.
And you said that Stop and Shop bag is, other than having the words Stop and Shop on it versus evidence on it, basically the one and the same thing.
Same dimensions, made out of the same materials, yes.
Right. But with an evidence bag, you know exactly where it came from and who's handling it.
Not necessarily.
Comes from a manufacturer whose job it is to secure those bags so that they are not mishandled, so they can have some sort of bona fides that they're clean and ready to accept evidence. In, say, for instance, I don't know, the investigation of a homicide of a police officer. Important stuff, right?
We're not at a homicide of a police officer at this point.
I'm just talking about evidence bags in general. Evidence bags in general. In other words, I'm trying to think of some of the most important investigations around. The manufacturers of those evidence bags manufacture them and send them in a way so that their bona fides, the provenance of those bags, is maintained, correct, and protected.
That's the way they ship them, yes.
Right. And Kenton PD pays extra money for those bags for that very purpose.
I'm sure they do, yes.
You mentioned almost tongue-in-cheek, look, except for the price, they're probably pretty close.
Yes.
There's a reason that there's a price difference, right?
What would the reason? What's the reason?
Well, it's not the shop. I can go pay 10 cents for that bag because I don't really give a hoot where it's been or who's handling it.
That was close.
Right? It's got my milk and my eggs in it. Really don't care.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they price it because of how they package it. I don't have any knowledge of that.
You're the one that mentioned the price.
Oh, no. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
I'm sorry. We're speaking over each other. Okay.
I apologize.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gallagher. You gotta wait for me.
Yep.
There's a reason. My point is there's a reason, right?
Yes.
That evidence bags are more expensive because there is a way they're manufactured and they're taken care of, and Canton PD is willing to pay that extra price, like every other law enforcement agency, because of that. Correct? All right. So they're not quite the same, are they?
No.
Those solo cups were placed in the evidence bag uncovered.
Yes.
The evidence bag was then placed in Sergeant Lank's vehicle?
It was closed and Sergeant Lank transported it to his vehicle, yes.
Okay. When you say closed, you mean the top of it was rolled up?
Correct.
Or folded over?
Correct.
Okay. It wasn't forensically sealed?
Not at that time, no.
There was no evidence tape that went on it?
Not at that time, no.
Matter of fact, the cups were still open and could slosh around? Assume they melted?
Yes.
There's liquid blood and liquid water, like
That's correct.
snow.
That's correct.
And you indicated that those were, at least you believe, those were placed in an evidence locker, temporary evidence locker, correct?
No, the blood samples were put in a refrigerated unit.
My mistake. I thought the refrigerator was the temporary storage locker. It's different?
Yes, lockers are not refrigerated. That's where the glass would go into a locker.
Okay.
What else goes in the refrigerator?
This was placed into an evidence refrigerator.
That's correct.
That was to maintain the integrity of the sample, the biological sample inside the cups, correct?
That's correct.
Do you have an evidence log of that?
I don't, no.
You've never seen an evidence log indicating that those were actually put into a refrigerated evidence locker?
I removed them myself, so I know they were in the refrigerator unit.
When did you remove them?
On February 1st.
Right. We're talking about January 29th. They were taken to Canton PD by Officer Lank, Sergeant Lank, on January 29th. I'm just asking, well, let me ask a foundational question. Does Canton PD maintain something called evidence logs?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not the evidence officer.
No.
There is, it's all computerized.
Right.
So like I explained earlier, when they do get logged in, The officer
hits the space bar.
puts the description of the property, hits the space bar, and the computer generates an evidence number.
Right. And that evidence number is associated with just that piece of evidence.
Just that piece of evidence, correct.
And every time it's checked out or put back in, there is a log created, correct?
Yeah, they do it by computer, yes.
It's a digital fingerprint.
Correct.
All right. I mean, you're a former narco specialist, right?
Mhm.
You did narcotics for years, right?
I did.
Drugs, about the most sensitive thing out there, right? I mean, you get a bottle of fentanyl, you're not just going to go set it on the evidence subject's desk. You're going to make sure that damn thing gets logged exactly how it's supposed to, correct?
Of course.
Because it needs to have a trace of where it goes and who touches it and who has access to it, correct?
That is correct.
You've never seen an evidence log for these items that were taken from 34 Fairview and supposedly put into, well, not supposedly because you took them out, and ultimately went into a refrigerated evidence log.
Yeah, I wouldn't have access to the evidence log. Our evidence room is a very strict process. There's only 2 people that can even have access to the permanent once it goes into permanent evidence. And it's the admin sergeant that changes the custody when it comes out for court, if an item has to come out for court, or if it has to be transported to another agency, or if an officer needs it removed from evidence for further inspection. The admin sergeant would take care of that.
That's the way it's...
Mr. Jackson, you're not going to finish today, right?
No, I'm not.
In 2 minutes.
Two questions, and I'm also...
All right, 2 questions.
Thank you. That's the way it's supposed to work, correct?
Yes.
But you've never, as you sit here, you've never seen an evidence log determining where that blood went and who was handling it between January 29th and February 1st.
I have never seen an evidence log.
That's all I had, Robert, at least at this time.
All right. All right, Lieutenant, we're going to have you come back tomorrow morning.
Thank you,
when
Mama.
the jury files that you can file right now.
Thank you.
So, jurors, that's it for today. The same 4 cautions. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, read anything about it, please disregard it and let us know tomorrow, and be very careful with your social media use. All right, see you tomorrow. Thank you.
All rise to the court, please. Jurors, close your notebooks. Follow me.
Goodbye. Yep. So it looks like we might be done. We'll hold tight and keep listening to see if anything else happens. Doing a little Christmas present opening. Not Christmas, really. I got a couple items. I wanted to show you what they were. Needed another small rig. This is a clamp camera mount. Actually, this is the identical mount to the camera that's right here. It's using the same thing. Needed one of these. I might actually swap it out on my desk and take this big bar out of the way because it sort of gets in the way. And I picked up a second DJI gimbal for a phone, which I need because...
You don't need me for anything, right?
No, you're on. No.
There's one very short issue.
Please be seated.
That's Sidebar with court permission.
Yes.
The judge is like, you don't need me, do you? These are fantastic. If you've never filmed with a gyro-stabilized gimbal before, these are amazing. And I remember the first one I bought was like $600, and this one I believe is under $100. I think it was 60 or 70. So good deal. It takes your phone and holds it rock steady still, so you can walk around with it, and it locks it. It's really good. So got 2 of these now, because when I go up on the trip in July, they have internal batteries, and I need one that I can charge while I'm using the other one. How about a giveaway, says Dave. When I'm done with it, we might be able to do that. I'm not sure. Is this what you guys would want on a giveaway? If we did a giveaway, what would you like? What would be a good item to give away? Paul's hanging out a little bit longer. Not cables. A hoodie. $1 million. You have to say that with your pinky up. A goat. Can give away some goat. Cash is good. The gimbal. The gimbal. No, Paul's gone. He's done. Looks like we're done. So, not going back to court now. Sweatshirt. Solo cups. Mug. Free pizza. Let's see, $1 billion with a B. Man, that's a lot. That's a lot. Oh, we've got a prank call. Hang on. Hello? Hello? Dang it. They hung up. I couldn't get I need a new one of these that works. Give away the bathroom. No, it's the lights are in. The lights work now. Can't do that. Okay. Stop. Up. Let's see what if anything just happened here. Everyone's just leaving. The fan's spinning. I just want to hear if they said anything. Just rewound to see if there's anything, but there's nothing. Nada. All right. Let's see. Bite Me wants a buttercup shirt. I don't. We're probably not going to have a buttercup shirt, but we've shared a lot of buttercup pictures. They were at Sidebar and then they just left. They were done. What is the name of this one? This is the DJI Osmo Mobile SE. Which is pretty good. I like it. All right. Spicy day in court. We did not get Paul O'Keefe on the stand yet, so he's still to come. We're not done with the witness we have right now. Canton Police Department retired Detective Paul Gallagher, who answers questions that I would be embarrassed to admit were true if I were him, with words like, absolutely. Just, wow. I think he's probably going to start a series of TED Talks talking about why leaf blowers are crucial to investigations. I will say this. In the video, it appears to work. It looks like the light powdery snow, which was on the surface, is blown away, and some of the wetter snow that started when the temperature probably was not below freezing was able to be cleared that way. That was pretty good. An autographed picture of RA. I do terrible with autographs. Plus, I can write my own name, but I don't know how to sign RA. I would like for you and your gang to come and redo my bathroom, please, says Tech Bay. That's a big giveaway. It would take months, by the way. Let's see. What are you doing in July? I'm filming a little a period reenactment from, I think, late colonial period. Up in Virginia, up at I think it's like a Hilton property or something like that. It's a private ranch. It's a horse riding ranch and stuff. So we're going to be doing some stuff up there, and I've volunteered to film it. And so I'm mostly going to be using my phone, honestly, because the phone cameras are great and these gimbals are great. I'll be using that and a couple GoPros, maybe a drone. I do have a drone to put up. Just noticed we did actually hit the 100 size on the siren counter today, which is amazing. I have to film in full costume. I do. I'm supposed to be in like cotton pants and suspenders and like a flax shirt. I don't know what it is, but I'm not wearing that. And if they kick me out, then they just won't get a video. We'll be covering the Idaho 4. Yes, Shannon, we will. Today's hearing was sealed. No media allowed, no public allowed in the hearing. We don't know yet what that was about, or at least I don't, because I was following Karen Reed today. but we will definitely follow that. And if not on the main channel during the trial, the preliminary stuff will be following on the Top Mark Media channel, which is my other channel or my parent company that I own. So Top Mark Media owns Recovery Addict, and we show stuff over there. Some of the courts we have access to that don't require commentary and analysis and everything else on top of it. Let's see. We have not hit 1,000 likes in the afternoon. It sort of went fast this afternoon. It was a short afternoon. Is that a historically accurate gimbal? Yes, as is the drone. Who is the armorer for the reenactment? You know, the same one that Rust used. Let's see. I want my coffee cup. Did you get your coffee cup? Did we get you squared away? Deanie, was there a problem with yours? If there's a problem, reach out to me again. I thought we fixed that. The motion to revoke Turtle Boy's bail was denied today. I think that's the second time it's been denied. He gets to still stay out. Your recommended metal detector. I think Mrs. Ari would be happy if I would give away some of my metal detectors. I think I've got like 5 right now. And yeah, I might need to get rid of some of them. Let's see. Anything else about today you guys have questions about? That's a lot of metal detectors. It is. I've got different ones for different reasons. I've got some that are for kids that are very easy to use, but not very, I'd say powerful. Very few false signals, but only able to go just a couple inches deep. So I've got some of those. That's like my Technetics Patriot is that way. I've got one that was sent to me by a manufacturer who wanted me to endorse it with a video. And I told them I would only do it if I tested it and it was good. I tested it and it was bad, so no video was made. They just stopped talking to me. So I asked them if they wanted the detector back, and they didn't even reply. So I've got that one. I've got 3 others that are, one is really lightweight, easy to use if you're detecting all day long, but doesn't do very well on wet sand at the beach. Got another one that's waterproof that I can go underwater in salt water on the beach, multi-frequency. And I've got a third one that's sort of like, or a fifth one. I think it's 5th one. That is waterproof, lightweight, easy to use. It's not great at anything, but it has a whole bunch of features. And it's a Nokta macro, simplex. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3. I think I've got 5. Does the hardness of the ground matter? Yes, I hate digging in hard ground. I can still detect things, I just can't dig it up when it's cement. Can you detect what is under the pyramids? Not from here. If I get closer, maybe. Found a plow blade once when I was sticking up out of the ground. Unfortunately, I found it with my skid loader tire. It was an expensive find, and it's not in a good way. Oh, my goodness, that's terrible. That's terrible. Should run a policeman special. Have you ever done an outhouse? Used one? Yes, in every count. We were looking for the outhouse that was on this property before they brought in plumbing, because my house was built in 1915. Indoor plumbing was what, 1930-ish? So we were looking for the outhouse on this property. We believe it's probably underneath where our garage is, because we probed for it all over the yard. We brought in a guy with the spring steel, rod to probe everywhere. We just could not find anything. So I did get a lot of silver out of the yard, though, as far as dimes and nickels and not nickels, dimes and quarters. All right. What's the oldest thing you found? Oldest thing is probably like early colonial log spike with a chain that was used for, they'd hammer the spike into the log and then drag it with a team of mules or oxen to drag the log out of the forest. I've got one of those. Probably one of the oldest things. As far as oldest coin, 1836, $5 gold, New Orleans mint, $5 gold coin. That was probably, it's both most valuable and my oldest coin. You may have a capped or uncapped well in your yard. That's exciting. Tetanus. Yes, the junk pile that was in our yard, because the old houses back in the day, they just threw their garbage out in a pile and then buried it, oftentimes in the outhouse. The junk pile, this house was a doctor's house. A doctor built it. He was the doctor for the town, probably one of the wealthiest guys at the time, because it was a nice house back in the day. And so we've found old needles and things like that. And by old needles, I'm thinking that is a massive needle that I would not want stuck in me, but they didn't have the little tiny hypodermic stuff that we have now. I'd love to know if that house is haunted. Yes, it is. Where there's muck, there's brass, they say. I lost keys in the outhouse once and just left them there and said, nope, no way. We'll just get new keys. Call the locksmith. The 17th century is the oldest home I've lived in. I have an apartment in England that was built in the 11th century. We threw darts at the wall. I didn't realize the whole wall and everything was part of the historic building. We got holes all over in that thing. But, yeah. That was up in King's Lynn area, I think, 11th century. There are definitely bodies then, says Greena's. We've finally been up in the attic in the ceiling. There are no bodies up there. That's good news. You have warrants in England. I've got an offshore bank account on the Isle of Wight, if that counts. No bodies. I found a body in England. Let's see. Just a girl. Glad we could answer some questions. It's a little early, so I thought I'd just answer a few questions for the day if you guys have any. Let's see. A wild camp. I dig my own outhouse. My kids have an opportunity to go camping on an old Boy Scout property, which I've detected on before, and I've done pretty well on. I've found some cool coins. It's Friday night. I might be able to go there on Saturday and just detect that day. But it's also springtime, and poison ivy is starting to grow. I need to have a bank account with a Nigerian prince attached to it. That would be fun. All right. I think that's it. I think we've covered everything. Anything else? We good? No? All right. Tomorrow we are back. We have another full day of trial with Karen Reed. Let's see. The Lego build was great on Saturday. If you guys missed that, go back and watch that live stream. That was a lot of fun. That was with MLS, Making Law Simple, as well as Valhalla Awaits. Wendy was there. And we had a surprise guest of Brandy Churchwell, who was a good friend and a wonderful content creator who was also following this trial. If you want deep dives into some of this, the background and the previous trial and this trial and some of the stuff outside court as well, Brandy Churchwell is your go-to girl for that. She is fantastic. She's great at making charts. She's great at breaking down all this information and keeping track of it, and I'd highly recommend that. So check her out for sure. So she was doing great there. Anything else? The storm passed, by the way. No lightning struck us. I missed everything because Western PA exploded on Tuesday. What happened in Western PA? Weather-wise? It was a great night. It's 3 hours, and I got the Legos built. 467 pieces. It's Baden-Powell. My great-grandfather... No, my great-grandfather saw Baden-Powell in a parade in England and decided he wanted to serve in scouting. He was already an adult by that time, but he served as a scouting leader for so long. He immigrated to the U.S. and served as a scouting leader for so long. And anyways, fun little story about him. Something has bothered me. Bev can obviously see this changing stories of the witnesses. What? Wouldn't that tell her this case should be thrown out? Can she do that? No. Unfortunately, no. What we are seeing is the judge has the foresight of knowing where the attorneys are going, particularly the defense, when they're trying to cross-examine a particular witness who was examined, questioned before in the preceding trial, because she knows that, okay, with this witness, we now know that we're going to be showing her bikini vacation pictures to the jury, and so she's shutting down that line of questioning because the end result is not relevant. And I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do, because I think AJ should have been able to show some of those pictures, maybe not all of them, but I think he should have been able to get that in. But it would have to be on, I guess, Nicole was pointing out that it has to be on impeachment to counter and bring that in to make it relevant, because it's not relevant to the case itself. It just seems like that should have come in again. Let's see, thanks to everyone, especially URA and the mods who make it possible for all of us. Court Addicts, thank you very much. Did you win? Did I win what? I forgot what the question was. The jury should be the ones to decide that. The jury doesn't get to decide what they see, unfortunately. That is for the judge's purview. Abel, good to have you here. Welcome. You come from a long line of YouTube streamers. No, my great-grandfather, though, was an amazing calligrapher. Like, he does amazing calligraphy. I've got a few items that were his. Even the signature in the front of a book that he did is just incredible. Just amazing. People would come to him from miles around to have him, make a card for them. A birthday card or a commemoration letter or a certificate. It was really neat. So he had a lot of cool connections. RA won the Lego challenge. Wendy won, but I beat the other guys, so that counts. I'm still watching the Lego streams as Misconduct. Thank you. Good to have you here, Misconduct. I know you're cheating on me, but it's with a good person, so I don't mind. All right, tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love, smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better. And please stay safe. We'll go live again tomorrow morning about 8:30 as we continue. This will be day 10. Day 10 of the trial. This is slated to be 8 weeks or thereabouts. Might be a little quicker. I think we might be a tiny bit ahead of schedule. If we're not, we might have some very slow days ahead of us. So we'll see what happens. But it's going to be spicy for the next foreseeable future. The defense is not disappointing. The Commonwealth is bringing all they've got, and everyone's on their best game. So you don't want to miss a bit of it. We'll see you here tomorrow. Have yourselves a great evening. Bye-bye.
I don't like ponies, to be honest.
It's bigger than you. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than all of us.